Yo, tell me about fucking 13 Sentinels.
I've been thinking. So every now and then it happens that there's a game that I'm legitimately very, very excited to talk, not just on the podcast, but with you specifically, Wooly. However, I have to be like not just because you're sensitive about spoilers, right? You're on the like the more the less information side of the spoiler like dichotomy, but also because I'm just going to start by saying nothing I talk about today, save for one detail that happens 5 minutes afterwards, is out of the prologue, right?
Okay.
So the prologue is about 3 hours, and it runs you through 7 of the 13 characters as the setup to your story,
Okay.
right? 13 Sentinels is the new Vanillaware joint, and unlike almost every single one of their games, it is not a beat 'em up. It's not even an RPG like I think Grim and Grimoire was. It is a visual novel. Boy, does Vanillaware's talents lend itself incredibly well to a visual novel.
Mm.
They've always had that great art with the sprite stretching technology, right? That they use that apparently only they know how to do.
If I remember correctly, you did not super enjoy their previous games.
I really love Odin's Sphere, but hate it because it becomes complete bullshit.
At the end, this is true. They fixed it later,
Um,
but yeah.
they did. Life Dressel is like a much better game. I thought Obora Muramasa was just like one gameplay element shy of being like really great.
Yep.
I think Dragon's Crown is aces.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I would have probably have loved Grand Knight's History, but it never came out here. But every like presentation has always been Vanillaware's strongest suit, and their presentation in terms of 2D is probably the strongest of any company ever. It's
Mm-hmm.
so ridiculous. Having them go into a genre that is 95% people talking on front of 2D backgrounds, good choice.
Yeah. Okay.
Because every single screenshot in the entire game is an immaculate painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's so ridiculously beautiful at all elements. The voice acting is great. Both the dub and the sub are both fantastic. I've actually been playing with the dub. The localization is aces. It's like it's much better localized than say Persona 5.
Okay.
Uh, and then you get to the gameplay and the story. Like presentation, you can just go look at it, right? I don't really need to say any more. But you have gameplay and your story. And your story in a visual novel is more or less reading and then picking paths, right? It's a slightly more complex choose your own adventure, which I will get to in just a little bit. The gameplay is actually basically real-time strategy front mission.
So
Um,
when
and
so there is combat then.
there's a lot of combat. I would say about 40% of the game is combat.
Okay.
So here's the deal. If you look at footage of 13 Sentinels, you will likely, like I did a stream of it, you can go pull that up, Pat Stares at 13 Sentinels, just to like see what the fuck I'm talking about. You will see that combat is very low budget, right? It is like a polygonal like grid like computer screen. It looks like you're looking like at a sci-fi movie's battle map or
Okay.
something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And your characters and the enemies are just represented by almost Atari level 3D blocks.
Okay.
Like they are
It's a
they're
tactical representation of what's
yeah,
actually happening.
there is absolutely like it has a bunch of filters on it, and like the fires on the buildings are giant pixels of flame
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And it has a bunch of cool UI elements, but it is very simple. And I look at that and I get really disappointed because I would love for the game to look like Advance Wars, but with Vanillaware, or Fire Emblem, or Front Mission, but Vanillaware.
Mm-hmm.
But Vanillaware is small and broke,
Mm-hmm.
and that was never in the cards, right?
When you look at Dragon's Crown, like, as amazing as it was, the biggest weakness of it was the repetition due to the size of how much they could make for it, and the genre. A beat 'em up is always going to be repetitive, so I felt like they had a couple of screens they could show you and a couple of characters and monsters you can interact with and beat up, and like that was the end of it. And then they just had to remix what those things are doing. But when a visual novel is kind of like on its sleeve honest about that, that makes perfect sense for what you're describing.
So they came up with, and this is a weird thing because this is the type of staff member that almost never gets like props in a in development sense. But the producer that made the decisions that led to the way the game looks in its battle sequences is a genius. Because I'm sure they went to a point where they're like, do we have money to animate all these big robots? No, of course not. No. So what they do is that you'll have, say, Karabe's Generation 2 Sentinel, and it will be a tiny little circle on the map. And his turn will come up, and the turn will have attack, move, defend, repair, the usual. And when you select him, the first thing that comes up on the right side of the screen is a wireframe look of the entire design of the robot, top to bottom. And you go, okay, that's fine. But then when you click on attack, you select from your attack. So in the tutorial, he has heavy knuckle, which is some punches. He has some arm-mounted machine guns, and he has some multi-rocket launchers. The solution to how do we do these fancy animations with Vanillaware level class, but no money, is that when you mouse over, say, arm-mounted machine guns, and I'm going to send you a screenshot from my stream, in the right side of the screen, it plays the high-end fancy Vanillaware animation of the robot doing the fucking thing. It just doesn't show it against a monster. It shows this is what that attack would look like. And it does that for everything.
Okay.
And then when you see the enemy force, you see them as a still image in the battle scenes, but then you interact with them constantly moving in cool ways in the story scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And the end result is that even though this is a frankly cheap-looking battle system, after about an hour and a half, I had totally disassociated from what I was actually looking at, and I would be hitting leap attack, and you would see the leap on the right side, and it was mentally you painted the mentally picturing it, and it works.
So
it really works.
This, I want to say that this is the magic of how Earthbound and obviously later Undertale are successful too, by showing you a portrait of the enemy and then just describing what you're doing to it, crack, as you hit it with the bat. Like there's
there's a good example with one of the anti-armor melee moves is some of the Generation 1s have just arms that are just saw blades. And they're like 10 saw blades in a row. And when you mouse over the Demolisher button, the animation is like the fucking robot doing a hook towards the camera as every single blade starts to spin up and flash. And you're like, okay, now I know exactly what this is supposed to be when I use this move on what looks like a Space Invader block. It's crazy. As to how it actually works, it is actually a lot more similar to Front Mission. That's probably the easiest way that I can come up with it. Every single mission is base defense. You have waves coming in to kill a terminal or a base. And you are stacking up your team of 13, usually as 6 defense and 6 offense, with one on the,
casual front mission gameplay is still
Yeah.
fucking incredible.
Yeah.
That's really good
and
news.
The biggest difference is that instead of a grid, it is you're always in cities, so you're going down city streets, so it's lanes, except for the flyers that can go anywhere,
Okay.
and that it is in real time. However, it's real time in the sense is that your character's turn will build up, and then once they're selectable, time stops so that you can do your shit, or you can just pause it whenever you want.
How next gen are the graphics in your head, though?
Extremely.
You running a 3080 in there?
Oh yeah, dude, it's crazy. The gameplay's great. It has unlockable pilot skills. It has unlockable passives. It has it's easily comparable to Front Mission. It's not nearly as in depth, but it is great for what it is, which is a break from hours and hours of visual noveling.
So mentally, I was preparing for students in a classroom talking to each other as the background is a painting, and that's it. And
That's a lot.
I'm down. I'm okay with that.
So, here's the thing. I spoke about this briefly on Twitter last night, and I mean it with no exaggeration. And Woolie, I struggle for you to come up with anything. This is the craziest story I have ever seen in a game. No, it's the craziest story I have ever seen. It is more ambitious and more out there than Ava or Xenogears, or like Cloud Atlas looks so stupid in comparison. It is so out there. And the big thing is that 13 Sentinels in all of its promotional material did not tell you is that this is a game about time travel. This is a time travel game. More than it is a robot game.
Okay.
So you go through the prologue, and the first moment in the game, like press start, is character runs up, monsters are attacking, the dramatic start. They're attacking Kasumicho or Kabukicho, whatever. Hit the robot, jump in the robot. It's go time, right? That is the last thing that happens in the game story. All the battles are the ending. Everything before that, all the visual novel is the lead up to the battles that you are already fighting.
Oh my god. Okay.
Okay. So
right.
that's the start. That is the dead ass premise.
Okay.
Right? You then go into these are just the first 2 hours. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a hero Yui type. Am I who I think I am? Are the pills they are giving me wiping my memory? Did I accidentally summon a robot due to a character that looks like he's from the Second World War touching me and hitting me with nanomachines only for a character to magically wipe my memory? That cat just told me that I need to use this gun to kill witches. E.T. Just straight up E.T. Character looking dead ass at the screen going, hey guys, do you like Terminator?
Okay.
Have you ever read War of the Worlds? That shit's weird. Oh no, it's a tripod?
Okay.
Am I the right person in this timeline? Are you from the future? Am I from the past? Just every half hour was jaw drop. What is going on? Who is this? What is happening?
And this is session 1.
That was session 1.
Okay. All right. Done.
A cat calling me a dumb bitch because because I question whether or not the gun I have is a magic gun that in fact kills witches. And the
I
cat may be Lucifer. That was something I didn't expect to see within an hour of starting the game.
believe it or not, like some of my favorite, like one of my favorite feelings is when the amazing, super rad, badass mecha is an afterthought.
Fucking trivial. Who cares?
Like, I'm
Who
super
cares?
down for that when the rest of what's happening is so interesting. And it's like,
So,
by the way, we've got these, you know?
people are mentioning, like, wait, is that a Madoka Magica reference? And the fact that the cat says, what would you prefer, a frilly pink skirt and a magic wand? And the fact that he's telling this to, I believe, the Madoka character who had guns, like the voice actress in both languages. Yes, I'm pretty sure that is a Madoka reference. Just, and it probably the most surprising from a studio like Vanillaware. Did not expect a sequence in which a time-displaced World War II soldier is having to overcome the fact that he's crazy in lust with a non-binary female-presenting character. Didn't think that was going to be on the docket.
Cool.
And for them to go, okay, whatever about my dick, I need to go back in time and prevent the atomic holocaust of the end of the Second World War. I don't care about this robot shit.
Okay.
The game's also super horny because it's a Vanillaware game.
Well, yeah, it has to be.
It's out of control. Like, horny. It's almost upsetting.
I mean, listen, I think George Kamitami laid his thesis out on day one and has not diverted from it or since.
Hey, Woolie, did you know that when you got in the robot, it deletes your clothes?
Oh, fuck. Okay. Damn it. All right, we're going there. All right.
Well, yeah,
All right.
because you have to be interfaced with it and you have to be like riding it like a motorcycle. It's basically the same position the people in that other Trigger anime was, the bad one.
I was about to ask you if you've seen 01 in God, that fucking
Darling
thing.
in the Franxx.
Darling in the Franxx. If you've seen the ass pilots, have you seen the ass pilots?
I've seen it.
You've got to literally put your hands on the two left and right controllers of the ass.
It's important.
All right.
Oh Christ! I forgot part of the tutorial where an idol starts talking to a character through his TV, and the character looks just like Yosuke.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I meant 03. My bad. Anyway, so that is every check mark, including the check marks that I didn't have in the box for this game. There's a bunch of invisible check marks down here.
So the last thing, also the story's incredible. It's not just crazy; it's great. I'm shocked that Vanillaware had writing people like this the whole time. But the last thing I want to say is the level of complexity that the game is dealing with does throw you a bone. And that bone is a super in-depth, like, cutscene rewatcher that has 14 sections to it, one for each character, and goes, okay, here's the events in order, right, that you've seen. And most of them will be question marks for most of the game, right? And then the 14th one is all events. It might be the most confusing event viewer I've ever seen. Because with the amount of time travel that's in the game's plot can't go forward in time. It actually has to follow the plot according to characters' perspectives.
So, Odin's Sphere also did time fuckery, but just in terms of, like, we have these 5 characters that need to get ready for Ragnarok, right? and you jump
Yeah.
around to different points and then set up what happened before. I don't want to ask any questions because I have many,
No,
but
I just want to go. So the confusion, it has to go by character perspective.
yeah.
So you'll have 3 events in a row that are sequential in terms of plot. Here's air quotes, and they're 2025, 1985, 1944.
So
And those are sequential plot points.
so this is what I'm saying, right? So the only thing I want to ask here, because anything else is dangerous, is do you have a screen that you look at that has dates on it?
No, but every event has the date on it.
Okay.
When you scroll down that massive list,
you never lean back and zoom out and go
well, no,
events.
no, because the amount of time travel involved means that if you saw a linear path forward, it would actually be completely nonsensical.
Okay. Okay. All right.
It would make no sense.
Okay.
And there's a really good situation after you've beat the prologue where you beat a bunch of battles, and it goes, you are not allowed to see the rest of the battles until you see event 1.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And then I saw event 1, and I'm like, I can't. What the fuck is going on in this game?
Okay. Shout outs to Looper. Shout outs to Primer. Shout outs to Back to the Future.
So I originally considered doing like an LP of this on stream, and I was warned not to. And then I played it for a couple hours, and I will now warn everyone else to, watch my stream of the tutorial, or watch the first 2 hours or whatever. But after that, don't even talk to people about this game. Don't even let people know you are playing it. Wooly, if you start to play it at some point in the future, don't talk about it.
It's one of those.
Don't talk about it. It has become extraordinarily clear, the more I play the game, that there are about a dozen one-sentence things that you could say that would just go, kneecap this 10%, kneecap that 5%.
More like 13.
However, it's also the kind of game that you could tell me a real spoiler and I wouldn't know whether or not to believe you.
Mm-hmm.
At the breadth of stupid shit that has occurred.
Okay.
It has gone for every sci-fi influence I can think of.
So the shit is so wild that it's hyper spoilable, but also
impossible to spoil.
The breadth of the context is insurmountable, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So like all the crazy shit I talked about was the first 2 hours. The game's like 30 hours long. I'm 25% through, and I think I know what's happening, but I bet I totally don't because I'm only 25%. Like,
I gotta say, it makes me a bit sad to hear though that part of it, the landmine nature of it, because excited as I am for this, like, it's one of those things where I know Vanillaware games, so I absolutely wanted to make sure. My biggest concern was going to be a potential repetitive situation. I don't expect them to make the mistakes they did with Odin Sphere Unremade again. But like I said, Dragon's Crown did have a little bit of that towards the end. So I was a bit like, I was concerned about like how repetitive things might get, or if there's something that would just be kind of like downtime or rough. But here,
you can choose at like with a significant amount of freedom how much of the gameplay you want to do before going back to the visual novel. There are lock-in points. Right, there are points where you get to a character's story and it's like, no. You must beat this mission before you can watch this part of this character's story, and then you'll get to the battles and it's like you must have viewed this event in order to see it. And there are conditions that are like you can't continue with the World War II guy until you see Kenji's poisoning event. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Okay.
You know,
Interesting.
stuff like that.
This definitely is something that I was really, really curious about. Like, it's about possibly LPing. What I'm hearing is that it kind of reminds me of how Danganronpa rolls, where like Danganronpa is also very, very spoilable, seeing as it is a series of murder mysteries, you know? So how do you even talk about where you're at in a game like that, you know?
You actually literally can't talk about where you're at because there are 13 characters you play as, and they all have percentages on their storylines.
Mm-hmm.
But almost every character is inside the other character stories, right? So, and I've played about 25%. I have played through one sequence out of the dozen of chapters that I've played in which I was playing a different character in a scene I had already seen.
Okay.
99% of them are completely unique scenes that happened in between moments of other character stories.
Okay. So, just by sheer nature of an audience that might say things,
Mm-hmm.
playing it live is a problem.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
yeah.
All right.
I have a small anecdote about it where I decided to hit up Laura Post because she plays Takamiya's character, who's the Sukaban girl.
Hmm.
And I'm like, Laura, do you understand? Be honest. Do you understand this game's plot? You are one of the 13 main characters. Do you know what's going on? And she laughed and said, no, absolutely not. Because the nature of voice acting is that they recorded their own lines for their parts and nothing else. Which means that at a maximum, any particular voice actor has about 9% of the total story, which must look like nonsense to them. It must look like complete garbage. I think the way that she described it is, you know, you ask your voice director, what's happening in this scene? What am I doing? And she described that the director would go, okay, I'll try, but
Well, you know how everyone that works with Kojima talks about his scripts, where they're like, I don't understand what this man is doing, but somehow he's a genius, right?
yeah.
So I think that we've seen that before, but like, anyway, I guess it makes sense why Vanillaware has been so quiet for so long.
Yeah. There's nothing in this game to show. I'm afraid to go back and see trailers that I have already seen.
Interesting.
Because you remember the trailers were like really short. They were like
kids walking around.
They had no dialogue in any of the trailers.
And then I saw a robot, and I went, "Ooh!" And that was it. And I was like, "Okay." And then key art. They put out key art as their promotional shit. They had a big render as doing most of the "please look at our game." Okay.
It's why it's like there was almost no dialogue. It was just like the characters would be moving, and then you would see the robot, and you wouldn't even see the gameplay, and they'd be like 50 seconds long.
So word of mouth has to do the job this time.
Word of mouth is important. Go buy this game if you got a PS4 and you have any interest in cool story games.
I do.
And don't tell your friends that you're playing it.
Oh, you're playing it on PS4?
Yeah, it's the only system it's out on.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's incredible. It's so good. It's very, very high quality game.